Hi, I'm Robert. I'm just going to preview the Minnesota Vikings versus Washington Redskins game this Sunday. Now, I'm going to start off with what is obvious, and then I'll just give my personal opinion on how I think the situation is. Well, the obvious is that the Minnesota Vikings started 5-0 as the last unbeaten team in the NFL, and then they've lost their last 3 games and really need to just get this next game, just win this next game to put their season back on track. They started the season with the loss of their starting quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, who was lost in the pre-season during practice, so he was out for the season. And then in the second game against the Green Bay Packers, they lost their starting running back. He's one of the best, probably the top quarterback or running back in the NFL, Adrian Peterson. And then they lost their 2 starting tackles, Matt Khalil and Andre Smith. So really the Vikings were up against it, and you'd probably expect their season to have gone downhill right at the start of the season. And the Washington Redskins, they had thought that with the Vikings as the unbeaten, the last unbeaten team, that this game on Sunday would probably be their toughest game, and they would have really had to be on the top of their game just to have any chance. But with the Vikings now having lost 3 in a row and really just trying to find the next win and save their season, the Redskins feel that this game against the Vikings is really a game that they can win. So things have changed in the course of 3 weeks. Now, I wanted to just put my opinion into perspective. When the Vikings, they lost Teddy Bridgewater and Adrian Peterson, for most of the season, you'd think their season would be, they'd be playing just to consolidate the season, rather than expecting to be the last unbeaten team. So with their record now as 5-1-5, lost 3, it's probably more like the kind of season they would have expected and no more after losing Teddy Bridgewater and Adrian Peterson. So if you look at it from that perspective, really the Viking season has sort of evened out, and it's like a reasonable kind of result after 8 games, winning 5 and losing 3. But as it stands at the moment, the Vikings have lost 3 games in a row. Like the first game against the first loss against the Eagles, although both teams made a lot of mistakes, the Eagles were just much better than the Vikings, so they really deserved to win. And also the second loss against the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears were really a basement team at that stage, having won only 1 game and lost 6, and they'd lost their starting quarterback Jay Cutler to injury. And in that game, it was Jay Cutler's return from his thumb injury, and probably his return seemed to spark the Bears into playing probably their best game of the season. And Bears fans lamented that if only their team had played at this kind of level throughout the season, they wouldn't be at a 2-6 record. So really the Bears sort of came right in the season when it was too late. And then the Vikings had this loss against the Detroit Lions. It was, loss in overtime, and they basically had the go-ahead touchdown, and there was only 23 seconds left in the game, and the Lions managed to get the ball back and kick a tying field goal, and in overtime they won the toss and got the ball, and they won with the touchdown to Golden Tate. So you could say it was a miraculous win for the Lions, and probably a miraculous loss for the Vikings. Now, here we stand with the Vikings against the Redskins. Basically they need to win this game to just get their season back on track. And when they won 5 games in a row, they all sort of had their confidence, way up there at sky high level, and perhaps it's understandable that they started cruising a little bit. Now with 3 losses in a row, they need to go back to the attitude they had when they lost Teddy Bridgewater to injury, a season-ending injury. It was, throughout the team, the management, they had the feeling that they really needed to do something, put in something extra to get their season, to basically retrieve their season. The players were saying, well, without our starting quarterback, everyone needs to just do that little bit extra. Just play that little play, make one extra play, just do everything. Everyone needs to come together because we've lost our starting quarterback. So now, with this game against the Washington Redskins, where the season is on the line, they need to just get that intensity and that attitude right again, as if they were at the start of the season when they had lost their starting quarterback. So really they have to get back to that kind of attitude, that presence of mind, the mind games. They just got to put all the negatives out of their mind and just approach the game as if it's like 0-0. They've got to start all over again. So really that's my point of view, and really just hope the Vikings can be really competitive and use this next game against the Redskins and just really get their season back on track. So that's my thoughts, and as always, Skol Vikings!